Good morning. Welcome to our studies in Romans chapter 3. We will study today from verse 1 to 20. Chapter 3, verse 1 to 20. Verse 1 to 8, Paul is basically addressing a group of people who are moralist, who are agnostic, and who have taken their Jewishness for granted as a region of their superiority in terms of their place in God's kingdom. So they are asking all kinds of questions, and Paul is rhetorically trying to address them. So the verse 1 begins saying, what advantage then is there in being a Jew? Or what value is there in circumcision? Like asking, if you're so much against the external of our faith, then what value is to take baptism, or what value is to go to the church? What value is to do all those rituals in the church, or even have the form of all this Christianity? What value is? Or some may question, what if some did not have faith? Paul, if you're saying that, because the Jews did not have faith and they depended so much on law, does it mean, will their lack of faith nullify God's faithfulness? Are you meaning to say that because Jews were not faithful, so God's covenant with Abraham, with the people of God, Israel, that will be nullified? So it all depended on the human effort. The Jews' personal religious observance of the law is not helping them, and it's only their faith. Then does it mean that it was all dependent on them? In verse 5 again we see, some of them would argue, but if our unrighteousness bring out God's righteousness, now for some of us who are Gentiles who did not have law and we live unrighteousness, or even the Jews, if our unrighteousness brings out God's righteousness, if that gives God opportunity to reveal His righteousness through Jesus Christ, then why God has right to show His wrath? How can God be unjust in bringing wrath on us while we are helping God? One might argue, verse 7, if my falsehood enhances God's truthfulness and so increase His glory, why am I still condemned as a sinner? So how as a human being, as a moralist, as agnostics, and always can find questions for sake of argument. So Paul is trying to argue that and try to address rhetorically that, having all that question, I want you to know in verse 8, the final conclusion, he says, all these questions is pertinent, but I want you to know that their condemnation is deserved. All are heading towards condemnation. And he goes towards verse 9 to 20. Verse 12 is particularly, 10 and 12 is very important, where he says, as it is written, and he quotes the Old Testament, there is no one righteous, not even one. There is no one who understands, no one who seeks God. All have turned away, they have together become worthless. There is no one who does good, not even one. And in all these things, he goes on to say that both Jews and Gentile, they are all alike. They are all same. Verse 20, therefore no one will be declared righteous in his sight by observing the law. Rather, through the law we become conscious of sin. So, yes, law was good, and it came with the Word of God. It was good for people to know God and know the Word of God and know, what is righteousness and what is unrighteousness. But by nature, human is born in sin, and they are not capable of keeping up the laws. Law cannot save, and that's why God had to reveal His righteousness through Jesus Christ. See, a law is only there to help us recognize we are sinner, but the law cannot save. So that's the whole argument in chapter 3, verse 1 to 20. And Paul is trying to address all kinds of questions that could be pertinent, especially if possibly the moralist and those who are too much confident of their righteousness in observing the law and in their identity as ethnic identity as Jew. It is possible sometimes that we may have not a correct understanding of Christianity, and we may measure on the things that is not the first thing. The essence of Christianity is that we need to have faith in Jesus Christ. We are saved through faith and by His grace, not by our works. May God bless you, and you have a wonderful day. We will continue our study, Romans chapter 3, verse 21 to all the way 31. I hope you are benefited, and if you are blessed, do send me some comment so that I know that you are listening and you are benefited. Blessings. Bye-bye.